Welcome to Short Fuse with me, Ollie O'Donoghue, and my dear friend who has been making fun of me consistently while we try to record this introduction, including accusing me of having a phone voice and doing quite nasty psyops where he asked me how I'm breathing as I do it to put me off. Introduce yourself, Duncan.
I am Master Criminal Duncan Roberts. Hello.
J'accuse.
It's nice to be here with you, Ollie, as always.
Well, yeah, indeed. Yeah, I look forward to it. And that's probably the only introduction I'm ever going to do, I think, at this stage, because it was grueling. We're on take 28.
I enjoyed it a lot.
You did. So what are we going to be talking about today, Duncan?
So today we are going to be talking about dead internet theory. We did an episode before we started doing videos, just as an audio podcast. So you can still watch it on YouTube just as an audio file, or you can listen to it on your favorite podcast platform. But it was just called the internet. And we were looking at whether we were long or short on the internet. Today, we're going to be delving into a bit more detail on the topic that came up a lot in that, which is dead internet theory. And for those of you that don't know, I'm sure many do, but dead internet theory is just the idea that the internet isn't real anymore, that it's pervasively infested by bots, and the content that you read and that you see is generated by AI or by bot farms from various different countries, and that you can have conversations on the internet, but they aren't with real people, and that the internet is slowly dying out. And we're gonna vote on specifically whether we think that's true or not, or whether we think that's going to continue if that is the case. So, Ollie, I'm always going to go to you first because it just makes my life so much easier. Are you long or short on dead internet theory?
Well, you get a true sense of psychological safety, because no matter what I say, you could be like, "Well, that's nonsense."
Yeah, exactly.
I disagree.
Yeah, you did the introduction. Next time you've got to just introduce the bets, so you're learning.
So I've got to take over, dominate the entire front of the show, and then for the rest of it, I can be like, "Well, Duncan's wrong," and I don't need to back that up with anything. So obviously, loads of research into this, fascinating little wormholes, because you've described the most common dead internet theory, but there's this other there's called, I think that's called weak dead internet theory. Correct me if I'm wrong, dear listeners, which is, bots are ruining everything. Nothing's real. There's also one called strong internet theory.
Wow, wouldn't have guessed that.
I know, right? Who would have thought it? It might actually be the other way around, in fact. Right. So I'll correct that by the end of the show. But the strong or indeed weak one, the other one, is that society has already collapsed. Right? So this is big conspiracy theory. Society's already collapsed. Theory. Yeah, and the internet is being kind of manifested and kept up. I mean, in some cases, people say by the US government. In other cases, it's like by an unknown entity to keep us all
the Illuminati.
Unaware of the fact. Well, right. So I think actually one of the first people who proposed this was probably, I think they were called something like Illuminati pirate. So yeah, I mean, certainly in that group. But yeah, the internet is in fact being sustained to protect us, to hide the fact that society has collapsed, and we're kind of trundling along with our lives thinking, oh, everything is still connected and we're all still fine, but actually it's collapsed. So the reason I tell you that is I think I'm probably long weak dead internet theory in that it is dominated by bots. In fact, if you go onto Reddit, and I spent some time in Reddit today just digging through it, kind of the first comment on everything now is this AI question mark. Yeah, because for pictures and everything like that. So it's actually become a bigger thing.
But not only that, the question saying, "Is this AI?" is probably AI itself.
So I was, it's genuinely what I wrote down was like, because AI learns from everything around it, and Reddit, as we know, and we talked about this in another one, Reddit is a big source for LLM training, seemingly. One of the smartest things an LLM could do in terms of predicting the next statistical likely thing to say eventually would just be like, is this AI? And therefore shield itself from, it's like being like, oh, are you a spy? You know, they say, well, I can't be because I've accused you of it first. So I can't be. But I'm sure on the one where society's collapsed, I think for my own emotional well-being, I don't think I'd
think I don't mean to disenfranchise anybody that's listening or watching to this, but I think that's utterly nonsense. that second one. So very, very short on that, but very long on the internet, the dead internet, the internet just becoming more dead. But also I'm quite short on that continuing ad nauseam so that the internet dies out itself, right? So there will be things that replace it and mechanisms and behaviors that replace the interactions and the stuff that we do on the internet as exists today. Because I don't think we can keep going on with, just distrusting or just ignoring everything on the internet because it's AI generated. Something's going to happen.
Yeah, and I suppose bots interacting with bots to deliver us things that we want, as we've talked about in other areas, like, commerce, like, hey, my bot, get me a good deal on a Ford Mustang. Ford, if you're listening, we do both accept sponsorship and free Mustangs. That's, so feel free to reach out to our agent, who is also us. But like bots handling that part is good. That's probably a good thing. It's an inevitable kind of evolution of the internet. So do you, I guess the question is, you think authentic content, do you think it'll be easier to find because it will hold more value?
No.
No, okay.
No, I just think I do think it probably won't exist to a certain extent on the majority of platforms, or that the majority of platforms that stuff exists on now will cease to exist in the same way that they do now. I think we will get to a tipping point, and we're pretty close to it now, where it really becomes impossible to discern whether something is genuinely created content or AI created content. And it's not easy to make that distinction either, because genuinely created content could have AI assistance. What I mean is, like the slop that comes out, and it's just meaningless. Like, you have a bot posts a Reddit thread, and then the bots all have a discussion underneath it. What's the point in that?
Right.
There'll be a point in which the purpose for the creation of those bots, which was probably, I don't know, one of the reasons might be to manipulate people's opinions of politically or whatever, those kind of cyber ops and hybrid warfare that's going on at the moment. It won't be plausible to do that anymore because nobody's looking at it, and the whole point is that is to get human eyes on it. So it just won't be created anymore. And I think that's the tipping point, is where we go, right, this content isn't generating the attention that we need it to anymore. Therefore, we need to flip to another type of content, or the platforms will die off because they can't do anything else.
So I think that's true. And I think that so the example I mentioned right at the start, so you being able to go to your agent and say, buy me a Ford Mustang at a very reasonable price and have it shipped to it's a ludicrous example, but like we'll just run with it for now. The way that bot will go and find, let's have a slightly different example. So, hey, buy me a really good car, a reliable car that doesn't break down. And your bot will go and look for a variety of things. It'll probably go to car manufacturers' websites first of all and look at their stats, but it'll also go into forums and look at what people are discussing. The bot advantage there, so if I was a bot in that forum working on behalf of Ford or Nissan, would be to spam it like crazy with, oh, well, I understand, the gearbox in a Nissan Altima is actually one of the best gearboxes possible. So when you say, like, why would you do that? That's a very big reason to do it. So to start with, it is to influence a human. But I think very soon that humans won't be part of the story whatsoever, to your point, but also the bots won't want to influence the human. It'll be to influence a bot. And the way a really good example of this, if you look at LinkedIn right now, there are a lot of tools where you could plug it into your LinkedIn and it's an engagement farmer. And in fact, what it does is anytime anyone posts something long, it posts a comment on your behalf that goes, oh, great post, Duncan. And then it feeds you back a summary of, I particularly like the way that you said the internet was dead. And it's really obvious to us.
Yeah, it's so obvious.
But it's really obvious to us. But now let's imagine part of a recruitment bot, because that's wild right now, is to skim through LinkedIn. Oh, is this person really? Do they have the engagement? Are they active? Do they have, thoughts? Whatever it is. It can now scan using that bot feed and be like, yeah, Duncan gets loads of responses to his blogs, or Ollie comments on loads of blogs.
It's just not sustainable, though. That's not a sustainable model because it's not real. Like if you have this kind of like if it's dead internet and it's just bots speaking to bots and then bots inspecting what your bot has said to another bot, it's not a sustainable model for recruitment, purchasing, anything. It will swing back the other way.
Well, I suppose to push back on that would be, well, what's the alternative? So the alternative is really to go, and we've, again, I think in some of our previous podcasts, both of us predicted the return of leaflets.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, actually, that might be the only way
and
to
jingles.
market your company is to, and jingles, of course, jingles.
Yeah.
Like the alternative is to take kind of 3 steps back beyond digital and go, right, okay, we now only do face-to-face interviews with people. We have to physically see you. It's in one of those like MI5 boxes, so you can't even get phone signal with us. We know you're not using AI and you've got an earpiece or anything like that. Or it's to accept, well, it's really going to be bat versus moth, where one develops capability and is able to hunt more moths, and then over time moths develop a better capability that means they can evade bats. It'll be that. And I think that's more likely, that AI scanning for recruiters makes it hard for you to use AI in job descriptions. And as a result, companies create better ways of using AI to enhance your job application. And it goes to that. And that powers this horrific cycle of AI just eventually doing 99.9% of the work. And there are examples of that right now from recruiters. That's like, well, we have AI that sifts out 99.9% of all applications for AI. Yeah. And people saying, well, I don't even know what's on my CV because I had AI do it for me, but for some reason I don't seem to be getting any jobs. What's going on here? So it's already taking place right now, and people, and you, because you can see it on LinkedIn in other forums, people aren't saying, oh, it's because we made the following mistakes. They're saying, well, this sucks. I've done everything right. I've put it through ChatGPT as requested, and I'm not getting it. And actually, it's the recruiter's fault for using AI. And streaming me out, and recruiters saying, well, because people are using ChatGPT, we're not going to review those CVs. So they're blaming each other rather than looking at, I guess, the ecosystem effect, which is why I'm long dead internet theory.
Yeah, and I'm long dead internet theory, but let me. It's just so nuanced, and I think that this is where talking about AI agents acting on your behalf, and I've spoken about it on this podcast a lot, that I am quite fond of that idea. And I think that it will be the engagement mechanism that prevails. But I think it's all determined on what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. We can't just say the internet is multifaceted. We can't just say that the internet will die because bots will infest it. Already has. But it depends on what you're trying to do. Agents, in some cases, are going to be the right things to help you buy a car, but they're not going to go, obviously, sit in that car, go and have a look at it and take it for a test drive. The other point is agents are going to be really great for commerce. Get this for me, sort out my weekly shop, add this to the weekly shop, do whatever. That's great. But again, really obviously, luxury retail where you want to go and have an experience is still going to be extremely popular. Equally, just popping to the shops with your family on a Saturday, that is something that people do, and I don't think that's going to go away. So there is nuance to it in that respect. There's also nuance to it in what you're trying to do on the internet. I said in the last podcast, you're using a browser to browse because I just like looking at stuff, or
it's an experience in and of itself.
Yeah, tinkering around, like sitting down at the computer screen or lounging on the sofa on my phone and browsing through stuff. But when it comes to kind of transactional stuff that I'd really like, filling out forms, booking doctor's appointments, helping with land registry, like you said, that's the stuff that agents can really powerfully help with, and I think that consumers and businesses will work to try and achieve. So I think there's a lot of nuance to it, but I guess what it comes down to is social media and interaction is what's going to be hardest hit on the internet by this invasion of AI because you can't, and news, you can't really trust what's real.
Yeah, I mean, social media is a fair point, actually, because again, for all of the examples that you mentioned before, I would say AI encroaching into that space through your browser journey, as it gets better and better, may not be as discernible. You might be able to spot it perhaps better than other people because you're in that space and you kind of have a mind for spotting stuff like that and getting very irate about it and sending emails to me saying, "Can you believe this? This is outrageous." But most people probably just won't care. I suppose. There are some really. Can you remember that big period where it was like, "Is it real or is it cake?" And there was a big trend.
Yeah,
that's now very dominant on Instagram and TikTok, where it's like, is this AI or is it real? So, hey, bear is walking arm in arm with human. Real. Against all odds, that's real. And other really mundane settings. Well, actually, AI did that, and it did it really well in a way that you couldn't predict. So I think that part of it will probably just be hard to detect, and as a result, people care less and less and less about it. Because if you were spending every single second of your leisurely browsing activity you've just described trying to figure out whether or not what you're being served up is AI, it's not going to be that pleasurable anymore. It's not going to be that pleasure. And as a result, the dead internet theory wins by default, because all people like you looking for authentic experiences just go, "I'll forget it. I'm not going to do it." Or there'll be, and this is probably true, there'll be browsers, and we always talk about this from a business model perspective, like it's up to a business to decide whether it does full AI. And some might say, "Hey, we're free range human. We don't have any AI in our organization whatsoever, so you should buy from us, and we're a B Corp as a result because we hire people." That's entirely possible. And you might have web browsers that do the same. So it's impossible for AI to feature in this.
A bit like
as a result of that, it's
and stuff. An AI blocker.
Yeah,
which just shows one website because everything's done with AI.
That's the point, right? So my bet is it would be a much lighter experience. You wouldn't there wouldn't be much to look at, because the easiest thing to do is to create a lot of content with AI. And I think most businesses will be doing that. But I think it's possible that it'll still exist. But it'll be like the old forums. Remember the old chat rooms where it's basically just plain text? You're just typing to each other. It'd be a bit like that.
That's quite nice, though. It brings me, you just made me think of it with the human with a bear in their arms, or human bear arm to arm. I can't remember what it was.
Arm in arm with a bear.
Arm in arm. That's the phrase I'm looking for. But when you go on Reddit and see those "is this AI" thing, you know how you get those, what are they called, GeoGuessr people who can find on Google Maps. They show them a picture and they go and find it. There's a similar sort of type of person who can really spot the issues with AI images. I think that's getting less and less, but still they're like, the hairs on that woman's head are joined at 3/4 up. That is something that cannot happen in the natural world. And, her left fingernail doesn't have this on it. They're really, really good at it. But I think that will happen less and less.
It's going to be so difficult. So difficult. I mean, you always talk about, the example you always use is I guess everyone uses it, the evolution of Will Smith eating spaghetti.
Yeah.
And how now it just genuinely looks like Will Smith eating spaghetti.
But even then,
that's where we are.
There's so many things that if you're looking for issues, that you will spot them. So one of the most obvious is sometimes you've got this steaming hot plate of spaghetti and Will Smith's eating it, and he's just eating it like it's normal spaghetti, and they're like, "That's steaming hot spaghetti." He'd be like,
"Of course, of course."
But then, if your brain is switched off and you're not out looking for it, you don't take account of that. So I think it will be a mixture of people being really aware, and there is this sentiment of people being really aware of AI and fake content on the internet at the moment. So people are becoming more hypervigilant to it. But still, I think it can get away with a lot. Like my great aunt Hilda, who doesn't exist, who's 99 years old, looking at stuff on the internet is still going to believe it. And those people who fall for scams, unfortunately, will still have that problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think Will Smith could eat really hot spaghetti if he wanted to. I mean, he famously was the last man on Earth for a brief period during I Am Legend.
Yeah, so you wouldn't get spaghetti at that point, would you?
Well, if you did, it would be really hot, I think.
Yeah.
That's the point. You'd have to, be really, really hot stuff. Let's go back to social media, because I think you're right. That's the one where it feels most acute, because it's people ostensibly pretending to be real people, but are using AI to either augment their engagement, which is what you see a lot of on LinkedIn. They're saying, send a reply to Duncan's treatise on the dead internet theory. and it's just a complete nonsense reply, where it just summarizes like, "Oh, I
it
loved
just
your
doesn't
title."
say anything interesting. Like
No, exactly.
that's the tell for me. Is you've got all the tells of the language and the images and the videos having certain aspects to them, but for me, the biggest tell is just unoriginal thinking, and that's more to do with the human than it is to do with the AI bot.
I think the tell is where it's well written but says nothing. So it's like, right, so you're literate and you've made no grammatical errors whatsoever, but are also stupid enough to think this was a good reply.
Yeah.
I'm aware the title is good. I wrote it. I'm very good at titles. Thank you, sir. But like, imagine how complex that gets as AI. Once again, AI gets better, so people will use tools that make them look more authentic, and pass the sniff test, right? So it comes up with a more intelligent response to what you've written, which effectively ChatGPT could do now if you're prompting it in the right way and you follow up with a couple more prompts and say, "Oh no, give me something. Throw in an example from The Economist to make sure it's truly credible." Right? That'll eventually happen with one click, right? With some of these tools. My bet is that we'll spend less and less time on social media as a result, because like, well, it's not even what they call copy pasta. It's the same thing over and over again, right? Which is true of all social media right now. I mean, there's so many. The one where, hey, if you put a frog in boiling hot water, it'll jump out. Well, probably not. It'll probably just immediately die of being boiled alive because you just put it in boiling hot water. But whatever, it jumps out. But if you warm it up really slowly, frogs are so stupid. It's not even going to realize that it'll just be dead. Every third post on LinkedIn right now is that. Absolutely every third post. And there'll be another one next week and another one next week that does all the rounds. But the fact that if I were to post anything and create content that adds value to LinkedIn, in my own humble opinion, but like, people putting authentic commentary out that gets 20 comments of, yeah, great piece, loved it. Oh, thanks, great piece, loved it. Oh, we should meet for a coffee. You're going to stop doing that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which kills it. It kills the platform completely. So the people that contribute stop because the engagement is false.
Yeah.
And if the people who contribute stop, there's no point in engagement in the first place, authentic or otherwise. So the whole thing collapses.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And yet, even with bearing that in mind, which seems to you and I fairly patently obvious, it's still happening, and people believe it's the right thing to do, to the extent that people are creating, like the social media companies and the AI companies are creating platforms purely for that kind of engagement.
Right.
Where you can just Sora is just TikTok style videos made with AI. Meta has bots, like it creates bots to put on Instagram and Facebook, and there are some startups that go the AI social media network, like where you have no friends, they're just AI bots. Like it's like, I just don't understand it, because the attention mechanism, not the attention mechanisms, the attention economy relies on attention from real human beings, because the way it's monetized is through advertising, because people go and buy things. So
right.
it's just not a sustainable business model. And I still don't think they've got that figured out. They're just throwing stuff at a wall and hoping something will stick. And I don't feel that the way it's happening at the moment is sustainable, and it will continue.
So again, I think you're right, but I think that they're sustainable. This is where we stray into the conspiracy part of this. But the AI social media network that they're building is probably for AI to consume.
Right. Yeah.
On behalf of it. There's everything you've just described. Actually, if agents
data.
are doing, and if agents are doing the commerce on behalf of their user, then you're trying to engage with an agent, and an agent probably doesn't truly care whether or not it's talking to AI or not, in the same way that we would, where it's like, well, I wanted to watch something funny, not the same strange video over and over again with slightly different. I keep seeing one where people, this is on a different social media site, where people turn into fairies. So they put a picture and AI turns them into a fairy, and it's all the rage at the moment. It's like, why is this something that I have to watch endlessly?
I keep seeing one of like people being sucked away by a tornado. They're at the front door bashing to try and get in, and they keep getting sucked away by a tornado. I'm like, that's just unpleasant. But it's a weird trend.
It's a trend. I think, and again, I think that part will continue, and AI will on its bid to get us this car that's reliable and fast or whatever it is. We'll just be able to bypass that. So it won't care. It won't matter. But it'll want to consume posts and things like that, and may be duped by those posts where, user 28622 is actually working on behalf of Nissan or Ford or Peugeot. Other car companies do exist to try and dupe it, to try and dupe your agent. I'm reminded of a lot of these videos where AI is, showing someone's mother, I wish this would happen to my mum because she was mean to me earlier, and it is a tornado hoovering them up or whatever it is. I think that's just an extension of stuff that's been going on for ages. I think MySpace and Bebo had stuff like that, didn't they? Where you could become like a cartoon.
It's effectively a meme template, isn't it? I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, it is exactly that. Yeah. That's a good point.
But here's the thing, right? And I'm going to bring up a very tenuous kind of analogy here. You know how you read a bit these days about younger people not drinking as much. They don't drink. They don't take drugs as much. Yeah. I'm not going to respond to that, but you've made your feelings clear.
One of the sorry to interrupt. One of the funniest things it was during obviously the pandemic wasn't a funny period, but we went through that period where if you had been somewhere and you were traced, you were called by someone. And there was an Irish meme that was going around, which was the Irish version of it, calling someone up and being like, "Have you been to any parties this week?" And the person was like, "No, I've been at home." And she just goes, "Ha ha ha, loser."
That would be me. That would be me on the other end of that phone.
I think that's how it got sent to me, was someone being like, "This is you." Like, yeah. Because they were like, stay at home. And I was like, no problem, I already do.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue. I just that's why I did that loser bit. It just reminded me of that call sent to me.
But it's true. But no, I think there's a cultural element to this as well. And I don't know, because I'm not an anthropologist, how wide this would spread. But there are cultural phenomena of people kind of outright rejecting things and moving to a different way of doing things. I think one of the advantages of this dead internet theory is disconnecting a certain amount, and younger people may reject the social media, the short form content, the kind of the addictive nature of social media because of what's going on at the moment, and may move to another way of doing things. And I think that other way of doing things is potentially using those AI agents to do that transactional stuff, build that agentic internet kind of framework, but then have different ways or different platforms that consume content, like you say, that is very much anti-AI, is very much like, we are not an AI platform. We guarantee the content on this platform or this news desk is completely untouched by any sort of artificial intelligence. I think, again, there's nuance with that, because AI can really help you create certain types of content that is still human driven. But I think what we may see is a younger generation swing completely the other way before we settle somewhere in the middle. And then it'll be interesting to see what platforms remain after that. Because I think we also feel like the platforms that exist today just aren't going to go anywhere. The YouTubes, the Googles, the Instagrams, etc. But I don't know how long their lives actually are, and this is an existential threat to them.
Well, all the time people like us are putting out premium content on YouTube. I'm sure it's going to be safe.
Yeah,
but the other guys, let's say.
You see, like, so many of the shorts are just faceless AI that people still engage with to an extent. People are cottoning on now.
But there's another part to this where AI is big. So what all you've described, that kind of authentic human to human piece, and I think it's interesting. There is a new generation comes through. There's always like a counter revolution to anything like this, isn't there? And actually, I think Gen Z I don't know if it's still the case, but in the early days of Gen Z, one of the big trends was like they're not really on social media, and part of it is because millennials like us, Duncan, made fools of ourselves. Yeah, we just made fools of ourselves, or like there was all sorts of backlash. Did something silly in public, and as a result, Gen Z were like, "Oh, that's cringe." I think would probably be a phrase that they would say, and pulled back from it. And again, I don't think that's necessarily the case now, but it seemed to be the trend at the time. Part of that counter-revolution might be a form of verification in something like, can you remember MSN? Something like that, where it's like, well, no, you're definitely speaking to a human.
You love MSN, don't you?
I remember nudging people. I remember when there was a mod that meant you could nudge people an infinite amount of times. In the good old days, this is for anyone younger than us, which is statistically quite a few people now, sadly. MSN was a chat room where you could nudge people if they weren't responding to you, and you're only really allowed to send one, I think it was every 30 seconds or a minute. And it was quite an abrasive way of getting someone's attention. It made
like a poke
wobble.
on Facebook.
A bit like a poke on Facebook, but I think even a poke is softer. A nudge really was quite, it's quite irritating. And then someone created a tool that meant you could just nudge perpetually. So, but and it was tremendous fun. Probably the best week of my life, I would say. It's always been downhill ever since then. 14-year-old me just nudging people until they blocked me indefinitely. Lost a lot of good friends that way, I'm ashamed to say. But anyway, we talked in one of our other podcasts, and this was the dating podcast. And there was a big trend happening where people were, and I guess the counterparty wouldn't know this, they wouldn't be aware of this, but then when they were chatting to them on a dating site like Hinge or Bumble or one of those, they were going to AI saying, this is what this person's has on their profile. What would be the best chat app line? What should I send to them? Or they've now responded with this. What should I send next? Now, in theory, that's an authentic person-to-person conversation because it is human being typing it. It's not AI automatically responding, but AI is involved. And I wonder, even if you get to that authentic level where you have to, let's say you have to verify your face like you do on dating sites, I'm led to believe. On those, I'm told by other people.
Yeah, my friend said.
Yeah, exactly, Keith. So you have to verify to prove it's you, and that might be exactly the counter-revolution that you're talking about, which is where there is this whole other separate internet where it's like, hey, it is a human. There is still nothing to stop AI from encroaching into that space organically, and as a result, devaluing the human-to-human interaction.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Well, you can imagine, can't you? Just like in the olden days, like, oh, you looked up that joke. Can you remember you tell a joke and people are like, oh, that wasn't from you. That was obviously from Bumper Knock Knock Jokes edition 7, which I also have because we all got the same stuff as kids at Christmas in our stocking. You would always be the same books. But no, it'd be like, oh, AI definitely told you to say that. Yeah. Like you can imagine that also driving a wedge. Now, I mean, we're going kind of off dead internet theory a little bit here because it's not necessarily a predicator of dead internet theory, but it is dead human engagement theory.
It is.
Which fuels dead internet theory.
Because even if the internet isn't infested with bots talking to each other, it can still just be humans using AI to know what to say. But then, as I said again in the dating podcast, what happens when you go on a date and you go, I haven't got my AI bot? I guess you're wearing smart glasses. And I have seen it actually, where somebody had a mock-up of some smart glasses that just had like what to say in a little screen in the bottom of their glasses.
Crazy.
Like it, and oh my gosh, like what? It's like, I've lost my glasses. I don't know what to say anymore. It's like those 80s films where they suddenly get a magic spell that makes them really charming and funny, and then it goes away and they don't have anything to do.
So those people are despicably well prepared. But how it was found out, so when we talk about this on the dating podcast, the reason it was found out is the exact reason you're talking about. These people coming off very kind of, suave, sophisticated. They always had the right thing to say. And then they met them in person. And not only was that not the case, but they also didn't know anything about... But it's like, well, us, I think, let's be fair, Duncan, we're very much cut from the same cloth, I think, in this regard. In fact, that's not true. You're very charming. You get away with absolute murder. I don't. People stick clear of me. But what was happening is not only were they not suave and sophisticated as they appeared, but also because AI was doing most of the work, they didn't know anything about the other person. So the person would be like, oh, what did you think of Centre Parks? And they were like, what? I go to Centre Parks. And you're like, no, you did. You replied to me. But it's because AI had told them, well, they like Centre Parks. You should say, oh, I really like to go into the Centre Parks in Wales. I had a great time with my family, cycling. But it wasn't kind of in their head. But I think that's going to become a huge issue. Absolutely.
Well, and the same goes with work, right? Like you submit something for work and somebody asks you about it and you're like, I don't remember saying that.
Right.
Yeah, but you did because you used a bot to create it for you. So, but there's that, you absolve yourself of that responsibility. And you delegate that responsibility to an AI agent. And then when you get challenged on it, you haven't got a clue what's going on.
It happens all the time. I mean, a lot of what the value, and again, back to the LinkedIn comments, because that's really all they're doing is this exact thing, which is, hey, here's a 20,000 word document. I've been asked to summarize this into 5 points. Can you summarize it into 5 points for me? And AI does that, click of a finger, no problem whatsoever, and people are using it all the time. But it means the person hasn't read the 20-word document and with their context and understanding summarized the most important points. And to your point, then can't recall what the document was even about outside of the 5 points that they've read. It's the same. I mean, imagine on social media, LinkedIn, any of these, where someone says, oh, loved the piece you wrote, Duncan, that 30-page piece for the following reasons. And then you call them on it. You say, well, come on to the podcast. We'll interview you on it. And they're like, oh, I liked your style of writing. I liked the font in particular. It's just they'd have nothing to say. So you'd get called out really quickly if you were called out at all. But the fact that it becomes endemic in a social network, so the fact that, even if 50% of people, I mean, I'd say even if 10% of people do it, which is probably about what's on LinkedIn right now, it's noticeable.
I think it's more. I think it's way more than that. I think almost everybody is doing it from what I see anyway. I mean, we are in a bubble of technology people. So I don't know what it's like elsewhere, but it's just, I don't go on it anymore. And that kind of proves the point. I just don't open LinkedIn anymore because there's nothing worth looking at on there.
I do, because I'm just like, well, a comment's a comment. Thanks, Barry. It is a great title, and the font is on point. You're absolutely right. It took me ages to pick that one. Times New Roman, size 12. That's right. You got it.
But what's the end? Not the end game, because it will never end, as it were. But where do you think this goes in 5-10 years, though? If dead internet theory is killing traditional engagement on the internet, where do we end up?
Well, the biggest proponents of dead internet theory suggest that that's already happened, don't they? Because they basically say, so it died in 2016. I think 2016 seems to be the number that people go with, although some people say 2020. Yeah, they're also, but the idea is that it has already happened. And actually, the internet's alive and well in so much as, I mean, rather tellingly, we're talking about in the future. Hey, would you even go on the internet? Well, if dead internet theory is correct and it has died already, we're still on it. So actually there is an argument to say, well, nothing happens at all. In fact, nothing changes at all. My bet is because of the way AI is now more explicitly integrated in the way people interact on. So in 2016, when people are talking about, they're talking about like bot farms and stuff like that, sending nonsensical stuff. Now, because it's explicitly integrated, so you have someone that could be Duncan Roberts saying, hey, I read your piece and I liked it, or hey, let's be friends for the following reasons, or whatever it is. There'll be something of a counter revolution where a separate, not necessarily a separate internet, but a separate way of accessing the internet, where things like verification is deeply embedded, like you have to prove you are a person. You can't use AI tools. Whether or not you can stop people from using AI tools in the background is, I guess, would be next to impossible, but maybe easier to spot if everyone is making spelling mistakes and talking in text language and stuff like that. And you may even see people coming up with their own form of language. So text language came about because you got charged per word, more or less, right? That's how it goes. Do it in the briefest possible way. But I wonder whether or not there is a sociological argument that we'll come up with another form of text language that AI finds it quite difficult to keep up with.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before. Like, if you were to write an AI post on LinkedIn, this isn't advice. Please don't ruin LinkedIn. It's the only social media network I'm on, in fact. So
It's
don't ruin
already
that
done,
one.
mate. It's already done.
I think so too. But one of the things you do, if you write an AI post, you know what one of the most effective things you could do to make people think it's not AI?
Swear.
Yeah, oh, actually, that's a great one. I didn't think about that. Swearing's a good one. But just make a couple of spelling mistakes.
Right, yeah.
Because AI doesn't make spelling mistakes.
Yeah.
So get spell weather wrong in the title, something like that. And it looks, I mean, you obviously look a bit like an idiot, but it also looks like, well, this person wrote it. This person wrote. So actually, things like getting punctuation wrong is probably the best thing to do, and not having a comma where it should be. That type of thing. And that I wonder if that will evolve more and more and more, and we'll start using text language again. And it'll and younger generations tend to do this. It won't be fuddy duddies like me and you, Duncan. Unfortunately, we'll still be we'll be lolling to our graves, I suspect.
Yeah.
But younger generations will come up with their own vernacular and way of typing it out in shorthand that I think will prove that it's an authentic person. Of course, eventually AI will be able to understand that, and it'll be trained, and then the language will shift and shift again. Yeah. That's what I wonder, if you'll have two. So you effectively have the internet that me and you are in right now, the old internet, which is dominated by bots, but that becomes part of our commerce infrastructure. So it is hunting for Mustang deals, and AI is effectively trying to use the existing infrastructure to pretend it is a human to influence those deals. Or either through skullduggery or directly. And then you'll have this other side, which is a different form of social media and more authentic internet. That would be my bet, Duncan.
I agree with you. What I'm smirking at is the word skullduggery, which I haven't heard for a while, but is excellent, and I'm going to try and include it in my language a lot more.
You wouldn't hear AI come up with a phrase like that, would you? You wouldn't. No, that's how you know I'm real.
Yeah, I think that's really valid, and I don't have an awful lot more to add to that. All I'd say is that I think that that's going to transform the platforms that are dominant on the internet today, and I think you'll see this bifurcation of the internet into that transactional, I need to do stuff and live my life layer, and I want entertainment, and one will be more AI agent and agentic enabled than the other. It'll be interesting. It's almost like the balkanization of the internet, so like how it will split into different things for different purposes, and some will be much more reliant on human engagement than others. But it does beg the question on monetization and how people make money from it. And I think that's maybe a question for another time, but how do the economics of that make sense, and how do we transition? Or is the inertia so strong to change the internet because it's so foundational to our lives at the moment that we won't see that change happen? It's fascinating, and I just want to see. I'm excited to see it play out.
It's difficult. I mean, just on that point, I think it won't change significantly from our viewpoint in our lifetime, because it's very difficult, even digital infrastructure, to change infrastructure. I mean, this gets sound absolutely ridiculous, but think about roads and trains. Particularly here in the UK, a lot of our roads still follow the same path of the Roman Empire. Right? Yeah, obviously I'm going to get Roman Empire into every podcast.
You got it in.
Yeah, but they follow that for a reason. Because people were using it at the time, so you have to keep, effectively what you do is you upgrade it over time, and that's the same with the internet right now. Whether it's us or bots that are paying the paymasters, the landlords of the internet, it doesn't really matter. They'll want to keep that cash flow. It's very difficult to say, we're going to stop the internet for a bit and then shift gears. So it tends to continue and perpetuate. But that has its problems. So again, this is where you go to trains now. One of the biggest issues we have in the UK with our train network is that it's based on the Victorian train network. It has all sorts of, for modern trains, big problems for the type of workload that we put across it. So actually what might kill the internet more aggressively is just the pace of AI bot adoption of the existing infrastructure. So if you think for you, if you have working on your behest 20, 30 agents, you may only have one interface, but it's probably about 20, 30 agents, maybe even more working on your behalf to handle discrete tasks, rather than you doing it at the latency that you act, where you're clicking on things and going, oh, I've got distracted because, like if you're like me, I have ADHD. Oh, I got distracted by a thing over here. So I have a more lethargic way of navigating and consuming the internet's resources. Bots will not. But not only will your 20, 30 bots be hitting the internet, but so will mine, and they may interact with yours in terms of bidding for a fixed resource, but so will the resources and the vendors. And I think that could choke the internet. Like, rather than it being bots are making the internet miserable, and that's dead internet theory, it could just be a bandwidth issue. Just completely
we talk about what the limits are on deploying AI in terms of human trust, power, GPU capacity, all this kind of stuff. But we don't talk about it much in terms of bandwidth. The bandwidth of the internet to be able to hold all these interactions and not DDoS yourself because you're getting all these inquiries so quickly. That's a really interesting point as well. So that whether it can survive that, or whether we're able to get to this future vision because we don't have the capacity to do it, is fascinating.
Well, just before we end then, because I promised right at the start that I would clear up what weak and strong dead internet theory is. So I believe, and of course it varies depending on where you are, but I've gone to the Wikipedia, the only safe place on the internet, which is genuinely true. It's worth mentioning, of course, the fact that it is aggressively monitored by humans, presumably also using AI, makes it an incredibly valuable resource. When me and Duncan were at university, you
were told to steer clear of it. My God. Like, stay away.
Your essay would be ripped up if you cited Wikipedia. And no one questioned it. It was like, well, of course, anyone could write it, which is still true now. But I can't remember if I've mentioned this, so sorry if I'm using this example over again. I used to have a radio show when I was at university with my friends, and we kept trying to create Wikipedia pages for ourselves, and they were taken down within seconds, often with this very cutting phrase. And if memory serves me well, it was uncited and utterly irrelevant.
That just explains my entire existence.
but it would be in seconds. It would be a human that would hit back, which Wikipedia now as a result is like the gospel. So anyway, according to Wikipedia, this is from a book called Market Oriented Disinformation Research. The weak version of the theory asserts there is a group of elites using bots to shape public discourse, while the strong version of the theory asserts that society itself collapsed because of some catastrophic event and some entity is keeping people connected to the internet in order to disguise this reality. So which of those, Duncan, and both of them are actually in the far end of the conspiracy spectrum to what we've been talking about. Are you short both of those?
I'm short both of those, but a little bit a lot shorter on the strong internet theory. I just don't necessarily think there's a coordinated government effort to do this. I think some of them are coordinated government efforts, as we know is true, because you have bot farms sponsored by government bodies that
hostile actors.
Hostile actors. Yeah, that we know that's true. I just don't think it's one government act to fool people. It's just it's organic, but it's happening.
I'm short on both those. So I'm short on the catastrophe one because I just hope it's not true. And actually, if we're living in blissful ignorance right now, fair enough. Don't mind.
It would make sense if you lived your entire life in the metaverse, but unfortunately, we have to go outside and speak to other people.
Do we, Duncan? There may be what you do, but some of us here do not. But I'm short that one nonetheless, despite it being quite applicable to the way I live my life. Whether or not this makes me firmly embedded in the conspiracy theory, I have worked for the government. I've been in the public sector. The idea that they can do anything in a coordinated fashion, I find absolutely fanciful. I mean that genuinely. And of course, I wonder if conspiracy theorists would be like, well, that's exactly what they would say, wouldn't they? They'd beguile us in that way to make them feel. No, trust me, guys. My God, I can't. It's strange to me that they can organize anything, but. The dead internet theory that we've been talking about, I think I'm still long on. I think it is going to cause the internet as we know it today to decay in some way, whether or not that's being choked by bots in terms of bandwidth, so an infrastructure issue, or whether or not it just means people like us just won't go on it. And you're a big digital guy, and you're not on a lot of social media for this reason. So the fact that you're pulling back, I think, is probably testament to the way a lot of people feel.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Good chat. Well, please do write in. Comment, like, subscribe, all of those different things if you want to, and we'd love to hear from you. But thanks for listening or watching, and we'll speak to you again soon. Say bye, Ollie.
Cheerio.